sound, I always say it's pure creative potential. And sound is vibration. It has the power to move energy and shift energy. And when we speak in different ways, it impacts the people that we're relating with, right? So if you're speaking really high and really quickly, you feel this sort of more nervous energy versus if you're breathing deeply and speaking slowly and you're really rooted and grounded and maybe speaking from one of the lower chakras, it builds a deeper sense of trust. And I think we can connect in a more grounded way.
Welcome to the Embodied Relationship Experience podcast. My name is John Wineland. I'm here with Susy Schieffelin, a dear friend of mine, and sort of, what would I call it? A wizardress of sound. And today we're going to talk about the power of sound current, the healing power of sound current to be specific. Before we jump into the topic, teacher training for 25-26 has just launched. This is our year-long immersion into the art of sacred intimacy, embodiment, all of the things that I love to talk about here. So if you're interested, the link is beneath. But for now, we're gonna really focus on this idea of sound current. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I use it. And then Susy, who is, sort of a master and has spent her life and teaches, right? And she's going to tell you a little bit about what she does and how she uses it, with the intention of really giving you guys some new ideas about how to use sound to, change your magnetic field, change the way you feel about things, change the way you feel in the moment, change how your partner might be feeling you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So welcome, Susy.
Thank you, John. Wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I talk a lot about sound, and a lot of this came from my teacher, who said something that I thought was just really groundbreaking at the time. And it was, speech is breath modulated. And so the way you speak and the way you speak to your partner is really the expression of breath. And then I guess, the energy of your body, right? And as you and I were talking before we started, you can speak from different chakras. You can train yourself to speak from, most people kind of live in one or two. Like, a lot of people are speaking from their throat. A lot of people speak from the throat and the head.
Yep.
And then you can feel the difference. If I just sort of start talking from my throat and my head, you can feel the difference than if I'm actually speaking from my lower chakras, right? And so the way that I like to think about sound current is as a relational tool or as a tool of intimacy. Is my sound, is my voice. It could be words, it could be sounds, it could be moans, it could be something juicier, but where is it coming from in my body? And then also, how is it impacting, how might that impact my partner's nervous system?
Yes.
And I had this amazing experience when I first started this work, where I learned 3-part breath, which I think I taught you, right?
Yeah,
At one point.
definitely.
Yeah. And what I saw over a few months was that as I started to open up my lower abdomen with breath, and I started to clear out my center column, I noticed that my voice dropped a couple octaves. And people are always telling me, like, oh, your voice is, blah, blah, blah. And I realized it wasn't always that way. That I actually, breath and breath practice actually helped me cultivate a voice that is a little deeper. And I think it's just coming from a deeper place in me.
And more embodied.
Yeah. Meaning, like, it's coming from, most of the time, it's coming from my, below the navel, let's say, below the navel. And that has an impact on people. And, it has an impact when I teach, it has an impact, right? So I think the first thing to talk about is, like, how do we use voice as sound current? And what would be your thoughts on how to work with voice and sound current as, both a healing agent and also as an agent of either relational intimacy, sexual intimacy, nervous system, soothing, right? How would you think about that?
Oh my gosh, there's so much power in bringing consciousness and intention to the voice, the sound current that we create with our bodies, with our human system. And it really is, it's rooted in the breath. first and foremost.
Yeah.
And sound, I always say it's pure creative potential. And sound is vibration. It has the power to move energy and shift energy. And when we speak in different ways, it impacts the people that we're relating with, right? So if you're speaking really high and really quickly, you feel this sort of more nervous energy versus if you're breathing deeply and speaking slowly and you're really rooted and grounded and maybe speaking from one of the lower chakras, it builds a deeper sense of trust. And I think we can connect in a more grounded way because we're in our bodies when we're feeling and speaking from that place.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I love about that is that on both ends, if we're receiving sound, like in the work you do with healing bowls, right? And if we're receiving sound or receiving certain kinds of music, we just have to sort of lay there and relax and let the sound do its work. We're receiving mantra, right? I mean, I use a lot of mantra. I know you use a lot of mantra. You know, and so in Kundalini, there was a lot of talk about mantra and how mantra actually starts to heal in Tibetan Buddhism also as well. There's a lot. I chant every day, right? So I really, you know, use sound current. But on the receiving end, you really don't have to do much other than just relax and let it kind of work your cells. But also on the giving end, you can really impact the space around you, whether you're talking to your child, whether you're talking, you know, to your lover, you know what I mean? Whether you're talking to a group of people, it really gives agency on how to transmit what you would want to transmit.
It's so true. In my past life, my past career, I worked in New York City. I was doing luxury lifestyle management. And my job was basically to make the impossible possible. And one of the things I would do would be to get people impossible dinner reservations. And I remember sitting there at my desk and really setting an intention before picking up the phone to make a phone call to like Per Se or the Polo Bar, which you couldn't get in, especially not the same day. And I would ground in, I would set my intention. And then through my voice and my sound current, I would express my energy and my positive intentions and I would get the reservation.
Wow.
You know, and I think that, you know, could actually be a little bit manipulative, but...
Sure. I think people, you know, of course, people can misuse any art or any skill set, of course.
But using voice to create that point of connection where I wasn't just calling and unconsciously being like, hey, do you have a table tonight? It was like, how are you? Letting them feel me, letting them feel my heart and my intention of, yes, we will get this table. And then they felt that and it resonated and landed and they'd be like, yeah, we're going to make this happen for you.
Yeah. You and I were speaking beforehand about like, how, you know, you can actually start to train yourself to speak from different chakras. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you know, what that means and how you might, you know, use that or how you might teach that. Like what would be your... Let's assume that I think most of the people listening have heard the word chakras, but maybe you could give us a little more information about what that means.
So our chakras meaning our energy centers. And when we talk about chakras, usually we're speaking about the 7 main chakras going from root to sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown. I think that most people, as we were talking about before, they really tend nowadays to speak from the throat chakra. You know, just really these upper chakras, sometimes third eye or crown, but not necessarily as deeply grounded in the body. And I think that you can really play around with which chakra you are speaking from for different purposes. So there's nothing wrong with speaking from the throat chakra or the third eye chakra by any means. And I mean, for me, in the work that I share and when I teach other healers how to lead sound baths and facilitate in a way that's grounded, to think about what if you were to speak from your root chakra? What would that feel like? You know,
so how does somebody do that? If we just wanted to double click on that, how would you suggest somebody actually start to do that? Do they just feel the root chakra, just for anybody who doesn't know, is really where your perineum is. It's that whole, you know, rectal, you know, genital, lower genital, or the base of your body. Base of your spine, basically.
Totally. So it starts with awareness. Starts with an awareness, bringing your attention there. For me, I'll start to engage Mulaband, squeezing rectum, sex organs, perineum, and just bringing my awareness and my focus there as I'm speaking. There's exercises that you can do to really play around with this and cultivate it, and specific mantras that go with each chakra. So one thing that I love to do, and oh my gosh, it will just get you so beautifully elevated and high if you do it, is to really tone and bring your awareness. So starting with the root, bringing your awareness there, I'll just do a little drop in.
Yeah.
And, take a few deep breaths, focusing on that area at the base of the spine, maybe engaging Mula Bandha. And then the mantra that we chant for the root chakra is So really gutturally,
Oh, I feel it.
Right?
Yeah, I totally.
It's like,
it's like a little vibrational. Felt pretty good, actually.
Right? Yeah, like by the time you go through all the chakras, you're like floating.
Yeah.
So that's something you could simply do, to start your day, or if you're going into, before this podcast coming on here, I'm like nervous, but also excited. And so what do I do to ground, right? Can I engage that, bring my awareness there, do some toning? Or if you want to just feel that full body flow, to go through all of the chakras, right? So the ooh, the O, the ah for the heart, E, I.
Let's try the heart. Let's try the heart, just to give them, and then what we'll do is we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put the different sounds, so that people that want to try this at home can try this at home. So, but I love that. So let's feel the difference and show them the difference between the root and the heart.
Love that. So heart is ah, which makes sense. A lot of the mantras that we chant in Kundalini practice is one of my favorite, being Kirtan Kriya Satana Ma. It's really bringing that energy to the heart.
Yeah.
We'll do that together now. So anyone who's listening, you can just take a moment, allow your eyes to gently close. Bring your awareness to your heart center. Take a deep inhale.
Oh, yeah. You could kind of feel your heart melt open.
Yeah, it feels like this softening, melting.
Yeah. I mean, I think, though, just doing those two, I've done toning before, but just doing those two now, you really can feel how quickly you can drop into your body, and how the sound literally amplifies or just kind of opens. Right? Like I felt when we did this, both sounds like opened the root, opened and melted the heart. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And I love, the keyword really is opening. You know, how do we open? And in those moments where in relationship or in partnership, we feel ourselves closing, sound current is such a powerful way to just soften and open, whether it's through toning.
Especially that center column, right? I mean, you know me, I talk about the center column a lot, and I pound the table on practice, especially practices that you can do, midday or at any time. But these are perfect examples of practices where, just 2 or 3 minutes, and all of a sudden you can totally soften yourself from the base up.
Yeah, and even to do it with a partner.
Oh, yeah.
So powerful, whether it's toning or even just humming, to then start resonating with each other and training with each other. And the thing that I love about sound and sound healing is, it goes where no other modality can, and it is something you don't have to talk about. So words so often I find fail us. It's limiting. How do we, the word God, it's like trying to put a word on something that's just this vast, infinite creative consciousness.
Yeah.
But when we can feel the pure energy of the essence, the intention, the feeling, especially the feeling, it moves. It moves whatever's stuck, whatever's blocked. So without having to go into it, to argue, to hash it out, to really work it out, sometimes just feeling the energy and toning, breathing, humming together, that's all you need.
Yeah.
And then you start crying, and the tears are flowing, and the juices are flowing, and the passion's there.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a great, I hate to use this word, hack, right? To kind of just get into, I'm like, fuck hacking, go deep. But I think that is a really beautiful, easy way to, like just bring everybody back. Because, when we get upset, our energy either rises to the top or kind of expands out to extremities. And being able to just use sound to bring everything back to the center and soften it is such a potent practice. Yeah.
Really
yeah.
is.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about, how you use sound. I mean, I know you use bowls and that's what you teach and but you've also created an album. So just tell us a little bit more about how you use sound.
Yeah. So I play Crystal Alchemy singing bowls. I lead deeply healing.
Yeah, you're
and
one of the best known, I'll brag about it. Yeah, you're one of the best known bowl healers, in the country. So yes. Susy's got a very beautiful teacher training that you do.
I have a teacher training.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on.
Yeah. It's been an incredible journey. And I'm so grateful that I've had so many beautiful opportunities and I've gotten to reach literally millions of people around the world through this work, which the reason why I started sharing it was because of the impact it had on my own life, where, I was struggling to stay sober for years. I was trying to get sober and couldn't get it to click. I was having so much anxiety, panic attacks, and, had been doing so much therapy, but nothing was clicking. And I went to my first sound bath and it was like I felt this sense of peace and wholeness that I'd been really searching for years, which a big part of my journey is my experience with alopecia, losing my hair.
Right.
And in that moment, in that first sound bath, it was like, I'm okay. Like, I'm really okay. And so I just kept going to sound baths and going and going and going. And I started, feeling calmer and I was able to get off my anxiety meds. And I did not use or drink alcohol, and, I lost almost 40 pounds. The light started to come back into my eyes and people were like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm
laying on the floor listening.
Yeah, laying on the floor listening to bowls. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's working. And so after months of doing that, I thought, I really need to learn this so that I can share it, because I grew up on the East Coast in Connecticut in a world where no one knew what sound healing was. People were open to yoga and some meditation, but it was a world away from what I had known. And I thought, if this could help me so drastically, and how could I not learn it and share it with other people? So I just did.
How long did it take before, because I always get this question from people who want to become teachers of something that really moves them, right? Like somebody will come to my workshops and be like, I want to teach this. I'm like, okay, let's practice it first for a while. But how long did it take you, to transition from just being, a receiver and a practitioner of it to where you really felt like, okay, now I can transmit with the sound. I'm not sure if it's like you become one with the bowl, or you literally, the bowl becomes an extension of your love or consciousness or something like that. But how long did it take?
It definitely does feel like the bowl becomes an extension of your consciousness and your love, and it's resonating your energy, which I think, that is one of the reasons why it's so important to receive the healing first and to practice it before you step into that path of teaching. And even once you do begin teaching, to continue to receive. Yeah. But for me, it took a full year. It was 9 months before I got my first own singing bowl. I trained with a mentor and I would assist him and play the gong, play bowls. And then 9 months in, I got my first bowl. And then a couple months after that, I got my first set of alchemy bowls, which they're a big investment. So it was a big energetic upgrade, and it was like, I'm going to do this for real.
What are they made of?
So they're made of 99.9% clear quartz crystal, the bowls that I play, sourced sustainably in North Carolina. And then the alchemy bowls, which are different than the white frosted bowls that some people play. The ones I play, they're colorful, they're kind of shiny, and they look very magical. But they're called alchemy. They're infused with other crystals, gemstones, precious metals, earth elements. So everything from platinum, gold, ruby, rose quartz.
So it's just like we've all known these, like the crystals that many people have in their houses. Bowls are made. I'm kind of new to this. I know a lot, right? So bowls are actually made of those crystals, and then it's almost like you're amplifying the transmission of the earth.
100%. Yeah. And the crystalline structure is akin to our structure. And so it resonates with our bodies in a way that we can feel it in a different way. And I also love, the Tibetan metal singing bowls, but the resonance that they create, it is different.
It's very Tibetan. Yeah, like it's got, the Tibetans tend to have, and this is just part of Tibetan Buddhism, is they're so rooted in the lower chakras, right? They really are. So it feels like it's transmitting that, like, if you've ever heard Tibetan chanting,
Yeah.
It seems like that sound becomes a way for us to transmit. I mean, and we were talking about speech, right? But it could be, when we think about practice and we think about being with our partners or with lovers, right? Oftentimes we aren't consciously using our voice or using sound, moaning in someone's ear in a very specific way from a very specific place in our body. Like all of those things can be super magical if they're done properly, obviously, or if they're done with intention.
Yeah.
And so how would you suggest for somebody that's just like, okay, yes, I mean, sound is just such an easy thing to start to use more of or get more conscious of. How would you suggest to people that they, start bringing more of this into their world?
Yeah. So, I mean, the practice that we shared earlier of the toning, I think is so powerful if you want to use your own human instrument and explore that, but also listening. Listening and receiving. I think so many of us are programmed to be givers and doers, and to actually pause and listen and receive will open up so much.
So let's say somebody's at home and they get your album or something like it. Do they lay on the ground? Do they sit in meditative posture? Like what would be the practice that you would recommend?
So what I recommend, so say you go on Spotify and you look at my album, Angel Aura, it just came out a month ago.
Right on.
And it has 11 tracks, and some of them have guidance. Some of them are just pure sound. And what I would recommend you do is you find somewhere that feels really comfortable for you. So if you'd like to sit, that's wonderful. I'll listen in my morning sit and I'll put on different tracks and let that be a part of it. Even on the way here, I was listening to one in the car. So it's something you can always just drop into. But for a deeper practice, I recommend that you lie down, cover your eyes. If you have an eye mask or an eye pillow, that will help your ocular nerve to relax, which helps your third eye to open. So for those of you that language is new, that's, really going to help you to connect with your intuition.
Your pituitary gland.
And certain bowls that I play actually work with specific endocrine glands. So some notes resonate specifically with chakras. Some work with endocrine glands. So I have bowls, and a lot of the bowls I worked with actually on that album are working. They're A sharp, which is working with pineal, pituitary, hypothalamus. So it's going to really help to balance your sleep, balance stress hormones, regulate metabolism, digestion, and then help you to open to that sense of higher truth and consciousness. So you lie back and you simply listen and receive. And one of the greatest gifts that I find and that people find is you really start to feel in a deeper way, feel a deeper sense of who you are. These inner knowings of your truth and your path start to emerge, and things that
would make a lot of sense, because it seems like people are they're sort of relaxing this whole center column we've been talking about, which goes, just to define it for people, it goes from the root, which we were talking about, all the way to the crown. And it's the deepest, when I talk about depth, I'm literally talking about like the deepest parts of your body, right? So the pineal is really the deepest part of your brain, right? It's right in the center, just below the crown. It's the deepest part of your brain, and then all the way down to the root, which is just below your sex organs. So you're basically using the sound current to soften and open up that deep part of your body, which would make sense that you would feel more.
Yeah,
right.
100%. 100%. So you feel it, and then it starts to move, right? And it starts to create this activation in your life where the things that maybe you felt stuck around, maybe you've had resistance to, you're afraid of moving forward in some way, even though you know that you have a deeper purpose or a different job or something that you desire in partnership.
Right.
It starts to become more available. You become more connected to it.
Wow.
So people reach out to me all the time, or even after my live events, they come up and they're like, wow, I just had this awareness come through, something that I've been stuck on for months or years, or, come out of meditation listening to one of the tracks from the album, and they're like, I opened my eyes, I looked at my phone, and something that I've been praying for and manifesting, a dream job opportunity, like the text is there.
Wow.
So crazy things like that. And then the other thing that's so powerful that I think we could all benefit from is it supports sleep.
Yeah.
It literally, these frequencies will entrain with your brain waves.
So would you recommend that people listen before sleep or first thing in the morning? Or are there different?
So you could, the ones without guidance, you can put on loop and loop them as you sleep.
Wow.
And especially because they're working with the endocrine system and specifically pineal, pituitary.
Wow.
I mean, you will wake up feeling like you're
right.
fully charged battery.
I'm always I'm at the point in my life where sleep is very important.
Yeah.
Right on. So I would love to hear, as a master of sound, how you work with sound in your home, right? Like I think one of the things that people, would benefit from is just an easy way, or just a really more conscious and aware way to both work with the way they speak, the way they use sound in the home. So I imagine your home is a pretty groovy soundscape.
It's very harmonized that way.
I imagine. So what does that look like?
So really thinking about what sound and what energy you want to infuse within your space, right? So if you're playing a lot of intense, heavy rock music, you're going to have a certain vibration in the field.
Right.
If you want to create more of a peaceful sanctuary, perhaps you do have a sound bath playing or mantra playing. And then depending on what energies or experiences you want to cultivate, you can bring in different sounds. So for me, a lot of times in the morning when we're doing breakfast and I have 2 little ones, almost 3-year-old and almost 1-year-old, that can get pretty chaotic. That can be a little wild. Yeah. And I will turn on mantra. And it's like it just shifts everything.
Yeah.
And before I know it, my 3-year-old's like chanting along.
Yeah.
And everything's peaceful and serene and we're getting breakfast done, it's good. Or, if you want to set the tone with a partner.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, having practiced with you for so many years, there's certain songs that are just in my nervous system, like Dolphin, where
Gabrielle Roth is a really great one for that.
So good. Yeah. Put that on and Mark's like, oh, I know what's up. So you can totally bring that in to evoke certain energies or experiences. Whereas if you just have the TV blaring in the background, I mean, first of all, we never have the TV on. I almost never watch TV, but even in any case, it's never on in the background. But that's a choice you could make consciously or
but I think that's
unconsciously.
important. I think that's important for people to take an inventory of what are the sounds that they are filling their space with, right? Because even if they're unaware of it, that sound is penetrating because sound current is so powerful. Yeah. Whatever you're listening to is penetrating you.
Well, and whether it's by choice or not, I mean, other than choosing where you live, living in a city, right? Are you constantly hearing noise pollution, right? Are there sirens going? Is there garbage trucks going on? And if that's the case, you might want to blast some more peaceful music to bring in a more harmonized experience because there's so much unconscious noise pollution, which really does take a toll on our nervous system and can put you into a state of fight or flight and you don't even realize why.
It'd be cool if we could talk a little bit about the science or the bio. I don't know how much you know. I know very little, just enough to be dangerous. But I do know that when you are listening to sounds like you're talking about, there's an immediate cortisol response, right? So your body immediately starts to kick out stress hormones.
Definitely.
And then you don't even recognize that you're in this sort of state of anxiety. And then, of course, if your partner comes home, even if you're in a decent mood or you're not angry, they can feel that. Yeah. And that we're constantly evoking from each other. That's something I always like to say. And so being able to evoke from each other from this harmonized place has got to provide a much better experience of relating.
Definitely. And there's so many ways that you can shift them. One of them definitely being sound. And there's specific sounds that I work with in sound healing. The note of D sharp is specifically working with the adrenal glands, where when we bring harmony and soothing frequencies to that gland shifts you. It lowers cortisol levels. All of a sudden, you find yourself in more of a state of rest and digest. And you can listen to music that is tuned to, is in the key of D sharp. That's one thing you can do. Or you can, listen to sound baths that are working with that. But it really makes a huge difference. And the other thing that happens is when we listen to sounds, they will entrain with our brainwaves. So this is some of the science of it. And when you listen to sounds such as, one of the technologies that I use playing singing bowls is creating binaural beats, which can be created in a number of different ways, but the bowls create them very organically. Sometimes within one bowl, there will be 2 frequencies that create a binaural beat. And if you're listening and you're like, what's a binaural? It sounds a little bit like wah, wah, wah.
Right.
And what that is it's two notes that are similar, but just slightly different.
Right.
So it could be like a D and a D sharp, just a half step apart. Or it could be the same note, but they're tuned differently. So in sound healing, we talk about 432 hertz tuning, which is very grounding. It's a frequency of nature. We talk about 528, which is solfeggio frequency.
Right, I've heard that.
And it's working with unconditional love, DNA repair, total healing. 440 is the tuning of modern day music. So it's more neutral. There's some conspiracies about that, which we won't go into.
Okay.
But
Wow. Okay.
Because music used to be tuned to 432.
Yeah.
And then there was this shift. So it's like, why did we do that? Right? Why are we getting away from what feels more natural to our nervous system?
Right.
So anyway, if you were to work with the note of D, one singing bowl that's D in 432 and one note of D that's tuned to 528, it will create that similar wah, wah, wah binaural beat, which is one ear hearing one frequency, the other hearing another, and then in your brain it's reduced down to a very low frequency, such as 7 hertz, which would then bring you into theta.
Wow.
So
you literally can change your brain waves
within 90 seconds of listening. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And I imagine if you add breath to that, certain kinds of very like I've been working a lot with CO2 breathing, which is this very light, it's sort of the antithesis of what I normally teach, which is activating breathing. And this is actually, I'm going to do this when I get home. I'm going to put on your album and I'm going to do this breath and I'll give it to you guys. But it's a very light, like almost so light that you're afraid you're not going to get enough oxygen. Inhale and a very, very light exhale, each to 5 beats, 5 count.
Wow.
So what it does is it naturally will put your brain into a state of theta, alpha first and then theta. But what it does is it allows your body to receive more oxygen because you're actually robbing the cells of oxygen. And we're going on a tangent here, but I think it would be a cool meditation. It robs your body of oxygen so that the blood cells actually deliver more oxygen. It's a strange way that we work, right?
Yeah.
So just to, for you guys to at home, we're constantly talking about down regulating your nervous system, learning to down regulate your nervous system so that you can be less reactive, so that you can be, more in a parasympathetic, which becomes orgasmic state, right? Like if to be able to downregulate your nervous system, to be able to use some of these technologies and then breath technologies is a way for you to be able to show up better in the relationship.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And I think, we've talked about a lot, and I think that we've talked about how to work with the chakras and sound, and we've talked about the technology of sound bowls and how to use mantra and sound to kind of downregulate your nervous system. So like, how would you use, your sound as a way to open your partner? Right? How might that work in your, because you have 2 kids, you've been married for a few years, right? I mean, like a lot of people are in this position and they want to know like, hey, how can I do something that's not like an hour-long practice, to get connected or to really impact my partner's nervous system? So what would you say about that?
Definitely. I mean, I would say start by humming. Humming around your partner. And that's something that you can do that's so beautiful to shift the energy in any moment, whether, you've come into the room with each other and you start to hum. Let your partner feel you.
Yeah.
And
that's super sweet. Yeah.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
And then, I mean, as it gets more intimate, I think bringing conscious sounds in is such a powerful way for them to also feel you.
Let's say you're in a lovemaking session, you might actually bring or
totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of naturally do that. There's a natural moaning sound, but to do it consciously.
Yeah. And without getting too much into your head, of course, but really letting yourself be in the deep pleasure of it and consciously sharing sounds. And sometimes it can feel really vulnerable to let yourself be expressive. I mean, I'm quite sound oriented.
Yes.
But there's such a gift in that, right? Like if you want to express without saying more, which yes, there's power in that, but to really like invite them in with sound and let them know I'm enjoying this, right? Like, ooh, this is good. Let them feel your pleasure through sound.
Yeah, I really like that. I've worked with sound around a little bit in my workshops and in practice, but it's such a nice idea to, in those moments of intimacy, especially if you're doing the toning that you talked about and you've practiced opening up various chakras with sound, to consciously bring those into a sexual practice moment would probably be really cool. And I think, you know, I'm always trying to get people to slow down. Like, you know, how do you slow everything down? And that would probably, you know, which actually deepens. I mean, you've heard me talk about this. You know, when we slow down and when we use these kind of technologies to deepen the sexual experience rather than, you know, make it come to an end or try to get to a climax or anything like that. And that is what allows the body to open in deeper levels. So I really like that. I might steal that for a workshop.
Can you lead a practice? Yeah, I'm going to be in that workshop. It should be where you just evoking with sound, right? A nonverbal practice, but using the sound current to communicate with your partner and express that. Because the second we use words, it puts us in our head.
Totally.
You know, and are they going to judge me if I'm asking for more or harder or slower, right? Like, is this right or is this wrong? Versus, you know, to really use nonverbal sound current.
Well, plus, I mean, just to keep playing on this, because if you're making love and you are consciously using right, then you have to think that vibration is also going to evoke a deeper heart experience for your partner, because we're always evoking.
Definitely.
Right? And sound is such a beautiful, as we're talking about here, everybody, sound is such a beautiful way to quickly harmonize and entrain your nervous systems. So if you're doing that, it's not just for you, but you're going to evoke them deeper in their heart. Because I get this question a lot. I get like, hey, so what if I'm not feeling my partner in their heart? You know, I get this from women a lot. Like, what if I'm just feeling his desire, but I'm not really feeling his heart? And a beautiful way to do that is what you just spoke about, where if you make sound from your heart, right? That's just going to naturally kind of tune to his heart. Yeah.
And so much of the work that you share about like evoking, right? She who must be, right? To be that through the sound of expressing your heart through sound so deeply that they have to then go deeper in their heart. And without it feeling critical to them either. Like more heart, right? Like more heart, which we say that in practice and it's beautiful, but like what if it's just like, so much they're like, oh yeah, that means more heart. I feel it.
Yeah. So something that I'm always giving people this challenge, right? Of, okay, so let's say, how do you evoke like deeper presence or deeper desire in your partner? And you gave such a really beautiful example. I would always have, you know, women, for example, just, you know, go into the kitchen, stand next to him, but actually feel in your body, she who must be ravished or she who must be cherished or whatever it is. And time, like literally like set a timer in your head or like watch and time how long it takes before you get the response from him that you like. It's usually between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. It's pretty fast. Right. But as I was listening to you, I thought, wow, what if you went and you did that, but you hummed.
Accelerates it.
You actually went next. So this is going to be a challenge for the ladies. I mean, I guess the men can do it too, but what would it be like if you just like started humming next to your partner and feeling the center of your body, feeling your heart, feeling your first chakra. Also, we didn't talk about the second chakra, which is the sex chakra, and humming from there and seeing how quickly you get a response.
Humming or even sighing, right? Like, especially if you want to be a demand for their presence, right? I mean, Mark and I, we're both busy entrepreneurs with 2 kids. There's so much going on. And rather than saying, which I sometimes will, you know, very first stage, babe, pay attention to me, be here. But to say, let him feel that. And he's, I'm here now. Right? Like to let him feel it through the sound current. That's the third stage.
It's such a deeper way. It's because you're right. When we speak words, or at least when we speak words unconsciously, then it really does tend to just set this level of where they're in their heads, you're in your head. But when we bring sound, we're automatically deeper. It's like the sort of super easy embodiment tool. Right? To just level things out so fast. Wow. Well, I've loved this. This is so cool. Like, and a really good technology, I think, for people to consider, how they want to, how they can just start to naturally bring it in, A, as a source of healing for their own nervous system.
Yep.
And then B, how they can start to work with sound themselves. I don't think I really spoke about this at the beginning, but something I will often give people is this, not only to deepen, to do belly breathing, to deepen your own breath, but then to take breaths in between certain sentences, right? Most people will just like speak until they run out of breath, and then they'll speak, and it's very staccato.
Yes.
It's very staccato, and you have to imagine that has a certain experience on your partner's nervous system.
Definitely.
You might be used to it because it's just what you've been doing. So this idea of like really, if you are using words, to really take breaths in between, like every few words, take a breath, let there be more potency to each word, all of those things.
And then there's the space really for the divine to come through. That's what I feel. Space whenever there's space. And that's one of the things that's incredible that happens in a sound bath, right? We're creating space and then the sound comes in, this divine sound, which when I'm playing singing bowls, I'm really channeling creative consciousness, the consciousness of love.
Of course.
And so when we speak and we pause and we breathe rather than rapid fire, it creates space for the energy of love to come through.
Of course. And I also like to think that if we're just starting to bring more intentionality as a part of practice, as a part, I mean, you use it in a whole different way, but for my world, as part of a color in your palette, let's say, so using sound as a color in your palette is something I think that people can jump on right away.
Such an accessible tool. It's accessible to all of us, whether you have singing bowls or a guitar.
We're going to have a lot of people humming in their kitchens.
The humming every. I want to see their humming videos. Tag us.
Comment on how your humming experiment went. That'd be really great. All right, Susie, thank you so much. It was anything else that you want to just share about using sound or how people might be able to work with it more? Any final thoughts?
I would say final thoughts are, every morning to really ground into love and use sound as a way to share that love, not only with yourself and with the people in your life, but also with the world. The world needs love. And I really feel, as we've discussed, sound is one of the most potent ways to move energy and to accelerate that. And so I'd love to invite anyone who's listening, as a part of your daily practice, to take a moment to hum, to tone, but do it really with the intention of sending love out into the world. And I guarantee that if you do that, you're going to feel infinite more love coming back to you, more amounts of love coming back to you.
Yeah. I can see that. It's funny. I'm having a party in a couple of weeks, and I think I'm going to actually have everybody do the chakra toning.
Yes.
I think I'm going to have that. That just came to me, right?
Oh my gosh.
A beautiful way to just sort of set the space. Thank you so much. What a cool conversation. I really love this, and it's just so nice to see you.
So good to see you.
Yeah, so nice to see you.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for having me and for the incredible role you've played on my journey. You've changed my life. Your work has changed my life, my relationship, all of it. So it's truly an honor and such a full circle moment to be here.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, that is it for now. We'll see you next time.